Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's electoral webinar, Use Home Assistant to Unlock the Power of the Smart Home. Wow, it's busy in the chat room already. We've got people from all over the world joining us. I'm Tristam Williams, an editor at Elector, and it's great to have you all here. Today, we're going to have a look at the world of home automation using Home Assistant. And joining me now is Senior Engineer Saad Imtiaz, who will be sharing his expertise and guiding us through the essentials and the more advanced features of this powerful platform. Saad, how are things where you are?
All good. It's just hot and humid.
Great. Yeah, it's even hot down here in winter, as they say. Anyway, whether you are getting started with home technology or you're just looking to enhance your existing setup, which I am, so these will be useful tips from our senior engineer. Look at me, I get free time with the senior engineer to give me great tips and tricks. We've got something for everyone today, and looking at the chat from all over the world, we've got a lot of familiar faces like Frank Dad from Belgium. We've got Germany in the house. We've got the Netherlands, Dortmund, Denmark, and so on and so forth. So we've got something for everyone. And of course, we have a giveaway this week, which is the ESP32 C3 Dev Kit M1. And we've got a few of them to give away for you. It's a compact board, as you see there on the Elector store, with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth LE. And it's built around the ESP32 C3 M1 module, Mini 1, 4 megabytes of flash memory on that. Most of the I/O pins are accessible for easy interfacing, and you've got extras like addressable RGB LED and a USB to UART bridge. So to do that, as usual, I will say to you to go to the link that you can see on the screen. That's the giveaway page, and we won't give away the code word as usual, just to entice you to stick around for the rest of the show. But the URL is there, Elector webinar giveaway, as you see at the top of the screen. But we'll bring that up on the screen later in any case. Now, let's get started. Take that off screen. What is Home Assistant? Well, it's an open source platform for home automation, and it was developed in 2013 by developer Paulus Schoutzen. And if you look behind Saad, you'll see a red magazine on the shelf there on his very real background. And that is from the Expressive Guest Edition. And there you see Paulus Schoutzen on the bottom of the magazine over there. And Saad was fortunate enough to pose a few questions to Paulus on the introduction of Home Assistant. So that was a very enlightening article about the background. And yes, it was an Expressive Guest edited edition, so that you'll see a lot about ESP Home and ESP 8266 and so on and so forth. So I would encourage you to go back and visit our archive and find out more about that interview. Now, this Home Assistant is a software product, and it is open source. So it's designed to centralize control of your smart home devices from various brands, and it offers over 2,000 devices and services. And being in the maker community, we won't always have something that is compatible, but this is what I want, because I've got a mess here. I've got air conditioning here on infrared. Maybe you can hear the buzzing, but I keep it off for the show. These lights in front of me, they are controlled via Bluetooth on a cell phone app, so I can turn those off here, sitting in the dark. And then maybe I don't like the color back there, then I've got to turn to, hey Google, office lights purple. So we've got Bluetooth, we've got infrared, we've got Wi-Fi, we've got Google Home. It's quite a mess, so I will certainly look forward to having Saad take me through some ways to improve this. But currently they support brands like Philips Hue, Google Nest, of course, and you can create complex automation rules without needing to write code. And your triggers can be time-based, event-based, or even sensor-driven, like temperature sensors or humidity, you name it, light sensors. And it has an intuitive user interface, which I'll bring up the example from their website. It's an intuitive user interface that's fully customizable, and it allows you to monitor and control all devices from a central dashboard. As I said, it works with your voice assistant. So in the interest of education, I have both the Google and the A word from Amazon. And I've also got the Home Assistant, the actual physical device. Now, you don't need this. This is hardware. It's very nice, sturdy hardware with great compatibility and features. I won't take you through all of the information about this because I've already done an unboxing of the Home Assistant, which I'll also put up on the screen. I encourage you, once again, to go and find it on our channel at elector.tv, which will take you to our YouTube channel, and you can find this video of the unboxing. And I went through various things about just your basics of getting it up and running on the cell phone app. But no thorough comprehensive advice there, which is why we brought Saad Imtiaz with us, because there's been a lot of interest in this sort of thing in our community. As for the product itself, I have an extra addition to it recently, which I haven't tried out. It's the Home Assistant Sky Connect, which is a USB dongle, which promises to give me product preview. There we go. Promises to give me Zigbee and Matter. So I haven't plugged it in yet, but it's just arrived and it looks to be very interesting. So it operates in your local network for faster, more reliable control, which means I don't have to go to the Google Cloud and have to talk to the device locally and then have it contact the cloud. And then if my internet's down, that's not going to work. So you can't turn the lights off unless you physically get up and control your devices manually. And some devices will not be manually controllable because you've relied on the cloud and the web. Now with Home Assistant devices, whether you've got this installed locally or you've just gone ahead and installed it on, say, a Raspberry 5, our familiar Raspberry Pi 5 there, it can install on a number of devices, from Raspberry Pis to dedicated services to even some NAS's network attached storage. So that's your dedicated hardware option, your Sky Connect dongle to go with it, and it runs on a variety of operating systems. Obviously, if you're running Raspberry Pi, you're used to it running Linux, some variant of that, but it can also run on Windows, even directly on Docker. And it's designed to run on minimal resources, which makes it even more efficient on modest hardware. I'm not sure how modest, but that's my very basic demonstration and introduction. And Saad, please help me get more technical and show me some of the details of the setup on your end.
Sure. I can go ahead and share my screen. So basically, this is the instance of my Home Assistant. Right now, I've pulled out a few of things which I don't want to show because it can actually show your camera feeds, a lot of other switches. This is the very basic dashboard, but there are so many variations you can do, like customize it, like different type of buttons you want. These are very simple buttons. If you want to really have really cool Apple-like looking Home Assistant instance, you can also do that. But as Brian said, okay, so all of these switches are from Tuya, and they use like I got them from AliExpress, or you can get it from Amazon. But basically, I don't use. They do not communicate with the internet. They specifically talk directly with the Home Assistant. I can turn off and turn on my 3D printer, turn my computer on and off, and my workbench. I can show all my the ESP32 energy meter readings here, and it's like everything. I have an integration with MQTT. This is integration with LoRa, so there's a lot of stuff going on. And before we continue, I want to answer Brian's question that how much resource does it take? Well, it just does not take much at all. I mean, I'm running it completely on a Raspberry Pi 4 with a 4 GB RAM, and it's flashed with the Home Assistant image, and it just takes 1.4 GB of RAM. So I would say that if you do it this way, then it totally works. But I would say that you should install it on different way, which I'm going to be mentioning in a short while, so that you can actually use this resource which is remaining. So before you you need a hardware. Let's say you have a Raspberry Pi. So to install Home Assistant on Raspberry Pi, you simply go to Raspberry Pi software, and then you simply download the Windows download for it. I already have downloaded for you guys, so I'm gonna simply share my screen again because this is a window.
Great. That you come prepared.
Yes. Well, it's not a big download, but it's nice to have everything downloaded beforehand. Okay. So, so first of all, you have to select the Raspberry Pi device you're going to install on. Let's say a Raspberry Pi 5. And on the OS side, they have a lot of OS you can install on. You can even, like, these are the basic ones, no brainer. But if you want to install, let's say, Ubuntu, uh, you can install it on Home Assistant on Ubuntu, or if you don't like the Raspberry Pi GUI or GNOME environment, you can use other distros. But to install Home Assistant, you simply go to other specific purpose OS, and then you go Home Assistants, and at the very bottom you will see Home Assistant. Simply select that. You can choose a storage on an SD card plugged into your computer, and then you click next, and it flashes the Home Assistant image, Assistant OS, onto your SD card, and then you can simply plug that SD card into your Raspberry Pi. And I don't think you need a display plugged in, uh, because it's going to go to a local link. Well, I don't have that local
Yeah,
link,
on
but
the Home Assistant, on the physical hardware, it has an HDMI output, but they say that the HDMI output is just for, in case you need to reflash it or do some emergency maintenance. There's no need for a display.
Exactly. Yes, I believe there's a really nice guide by Home Assistant for installing it onto Raspberry Pi. It's really nice. You can also check that out. But mostly, as I said earlier, you're gonna be not using a lot of resources. So the other method is that you go this route. Is that if you don't even have a Raspberry Pi, if you have an old laptop which you don't use, it just has a lot of dust on it, you just dust it off. You install Ubuntu on it. To install Ubuntu, it's pretty basic, pretty much same as installing Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi. You you go to Ubuntu, so, and the desktop variant, and download the Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. The desktop, the difference between these two is that the LTS side has more extended updates. I like to stick with LTS because it's more stable than the normal desktop variant. And once you download that, then you can use these two tools. You can use Rufus, or you can use Boolean Etcher. So Boolean Etcher, you simply select the image, select the drive, and flash. That's three basic steps, just like we covered with the Raspberry Pi image or the Home Assistant image. So after that, the thing I like to use on Linux, if I want to use, let's say, a lot of services and I want to really use my Linux machine remotely, is to install Casa OS. It's basically, I would say, uh, a web interface for your Docker images. So it's based on Docker. You will be installing multiple Docker images and containers, and you can control them via Casa OS. So simply just copy paste that command in the terminal, and it's installed really easy. I don't have to really go show every screen, of course, because it's going to take a little bit of time, but it's really simple. You just open terminal, copy paste this command, and you're good to go. So once you have Casa OS running, you so as you can see here, I have a bunch of stuff installed here. But we're going to focus on Home Assistant. To install it, you simply go to the App Store and write Home Assistant. There you go. So I already have installed, but it's a really simple step. I'm gonna just, for example, I'm gonna just install this home bridge and show you that it's really easy. There's no steps involved or anything. It just works like magic. So once you're there, this is the screen you're gonna see setting, the first one, and simply create your username. Let's say and password. Let's just select any, doesn't matter.
What is the purpose of that, do you think, for selecting the appropriate Wi-Fi networks, or just for automatic time
I believe
synchronization?
it's time or language. I didn't try it, so no, if I select Pakistan, I don't get Urdu. I still get
Okay.
English, but I prefer English anyway, so it's easier. So once you install it for the first time, this is the thing which I really like about Home Assistant, that it automatically detects all the devices in your home network which are compatible with the Home Assistant straight away. So I have a ESP home running and all that stuff. So just finish. I can play music on my TV. I can pause it. I don't know if someone's watching it, but I just paused his YouTube video. Um, and that's basically it. So to install basic services, you can configure which pops up here, or if it's not showing up, let's say I want to add my TUIA switch. It's going to add a user code. Um, Long story short, you can add that code while getting to your TUIA account. Uh, you can add, let's say, anything pretty much. I know, Brian, which one of these integration did you use? On my basic one, I have pretty much a lot of stuff going on, but so there you
I
go.
did have a
I
look
have
at Home
camera.
Assistant Cloud, but I didn't get very far in setting that one up.
Yeah. So I have a 3D printer running on Octoprint. I can install that integration. I can install Tuya. I can install the Things Network, which is actually uh, LoRaWAN gateway device, which have a LoRaWAN gateway node, which sends the information or the data to the LoRaWAN gateway, and then I get it on the Things Network platform, and then I can integrate that Things platform to with Home Assistant, and then I can get all the readings of my projects here. So it's pretty nice. But we're not going to just stop there. We're going to show you how to install MQTT. So you can run basically a lot of, let's say you don't want to use ESP Home for certain reasons. As for ESP Home, you need to know YAML, and it's a not a big steep learning curve, but it does not give you much flexibility. Maybe there's a sensor which is not integrated with them, or they don't post let's say a documentation for it, and much of other stuff. So to simplify that
Yeah, YAML is
process,
basically just a hierarchical language like JSON or XML, right?
exactly. But ESP Home uses YAML. I would say they use a YAML file to program your code. So basically, you write a YAML code and it just writes the firmware for it. But if, like, let's say you're using Arduino IDE to write your code, and you need to integrate, you need to send this data to your Home Assistant device. For that, I think the best thing is that you install MQTT or Mosquito. Okay.
The thing with the Home
Lost there.
Assistant Green that I've got is it doesn't have Wi-Fi by default. It is Ethernet only, which I kind of prefer because it keeps it more stable. But actually, I can't show you my dashboard while this baby's away from home.
Yeah, I also have it on the Ethernet because it's more stable, and I actually keep all the network stuff at one place so no one touches it or nothing is involved there in terms of wireless communication. Okay, so to install MQTT Broker, you simply go to the add-on store. Maybe if I was too fast, you go to the add-ons here. Simply click here, add Mosquito. This is the Mosquito Broker, and you simply install it. I prefer you keep the start and boot on. So let's say if you get update your Home Assistant installation, it automatically starts. You don't have to start. And then also enable this watchdog. It will help you. Let's say in the log, you will be able to identify what went wrong. And it's basically that's it. You simply install it. There's nothing else you need to do here. And once you installed this side, you need to go in devices and services, and then you have to install MQTT here. So only one MQTT instances can be installed. Over here, when you install the MQTT, you simply go configure, and here you will basically see this screen. So two things here. So the broker is core Mosquito. This is the same which we saw here. It needs to be the same thing. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So the host name needs to be core Mosquito over there as well in the add-ons MQTT integration. We won't touch the port, but the thing which is important here is the username and password. So this username and password is actual user on your Home Assistant instance. So to make a new user, you simply would use, I think, this one. So you go to people and you add a person, and let's say MQTT. And then you type a password for it. Create. Now this is a user. I won't make it administrator because it's just the user to log in from, I would say, use these credentials to send the data to the MQTT broker vmade and shore data here. I think this is, yeah, that's it. So once you set it up, use that same password here. I'm sorry, guys. There. Use that same username and password here. You don't have to check the advanced options. It's really simple. And I think this will be automatically set up by itself, so you don't have to do it. You can enable discovery. It just help you to, whenever there's a prefix with the Home Assistant, everything will be shown up or already be added into your Home Assistant dashboard. But if you don't want to enable it, it's okay. You can also do it via the YAML configuration file, which I will show later. And once everything is done, you simply submit, and it will be running. So to test if your Home Assistant is running, you simply publish, and you have to start listening first. And this, as you can see here, I'm already sending a lot of data to my Home Assistant MQTT broker. So, well, talking about sending data to the MQTT broker, there were a few libraries which did not work with the ESP32, specifically having the option to add a device name, uh, user ID, and password. These are the most important things when because we already made a user ID and password for that MQTT broker in our Home Assistant installation, and we will use the same user and the same password for that. We also will put the Home Assistant IP, which will be available here. And you can also check that out from your router settings. It will be available there as well. So you can plug those values here, your Wi-Fi and your password. These things are important. So I was talking about the library which works best with the Home Assistant is this one, MQTT Pub Sub Client. This worked best for me, but if there's any other library out there, I would like people to let me know. But in terms of making the integration with the ESP32, sending MQTT data to Home Assistant, this works best.
Awesome.
After
And
that,
that pseudo domain homeassistant.local that gets assigned by DHCP.
yes, your router basically assigns that. Oh yes, thanks for bringing that up. You have to make your Home Assistant IP static. You can do that, I think, with a command in Home Assistant, or you can also do it in your router settings. So you go into your router settings, you find all the connected devices, and you can assign that specific IP for Home Assistant. So when you're using, let's say, I'm going to be sending data to my Home Assistant MQTT broker, I would want that IP to remain the same, because sometimes if the device connect and disconnect, you're going to be your router will assign a different IP to your Home Assistant device. So you need to set that up as well. Okay,
and
so
you have to put an IP address. You can't put like homeassistant.local instead for it to look up automatically.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I think it will pull up automatically, but I didn't check here in my in the IP. I didn't enter the Home Assistant or this Home Assistant.local port 8123. I didn't try. I checked it, but that's a good thing. Maybe we can check that later. But for now, I'm gonna just use the IP which is assigned by the DHCP on our router. So over here we have a
there's
very
pros and
basic.
cons to both.
Yeah. Oh, you can use your local DNS and then assign names for specific IPs and still work. But I'm not sure if it works with this this way if you don't use the IP assigned. So speaking of this, Arduino code is basically a small ESP. I think it's M5 stack Nano C6 hooked up with some groove sensors. And we're going to simply flash that. It's connected right now. Frank, yes, all those things are commented out because on this tab config-2 I have the original stuff, and I would like not share my passwords and everything. So that's why it's connected. But if you uncomment it and write the specific things, it's gonna work.
Yeah, Saad doesn't want to share his real Wi-Fi and password, although I'm not sure how many of you will take the trouble to go to his home to get his access to his network.
Yeah, you never know. Okay, so this is flashed, and now I can see here anything with Nano Air, NO2. That's what's coming from the device connected to my computer right now. So as you noticed before, we did not turn auto discovery, and the problem with that is it's not going to get auto discovered. So the tags here, or the topics we're going to be assigning. So nano air NO2, we had to write Home Assistant here. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it works, but I try to be specific about it. So nano air / CO2, we have, it's coming up here, but it's not going to be showing if you don't have auto discovery on your dashboard. To do that, it's very simple. You have to install the Studio Code Server add-on over here. I already have it installed. So you install that, and it's basically VS Code running on your Raspberry Pi, sorry, Home Assistant. And here you can see the configurations.yaml file, which we will edit. To add your MQTT device, we have to make every value or every entity which is coming, and we have to define it as a sensor. So for that, we will type MQTT colon, and then we will assign the sensor. So each CO2, although I have only one sensor which gives me all these values, it's actually a multi-channel gas sensor V2, and it gives me 4 gas. But over here, I have to assign each variable which I'm getting a name for it. So nano air CO, carbon monoxide, and then the topic, the exact same topic we're sending to via MQTT. Then the unit of measurement, you can assign that. If you don't assign it, it will give you a historical way and won't give you a graph. So do have the unit of measurement added here, and basically that. And for unique ID, you can add anything here. It needs to be unique in terms of these all sensors. Everything needs to be unique in terms of that way. And once you have entered it, you simply restart your Home Assistant, or you can go this way, developer tools, or check configuration and restart. You can do a restart Home Assistant, but a quick reload always works as well.
And while you're reloading, MQTT or Mosquito is a whole topic of learning on its own. How did you get inroads into that topic?
I would say that in IoT, mostly projects are based on MQTT. When you're collecting data from sensors, you use MQTT because it's a very lightweight and a reliable way of sending data from your sensors or your embedded device to a server. So MQTT itself is a communications protocol, I would say. So it gets all the readings and the data you want to send from your device to a server, but it does not store any of the data. That's why we need Home Assistant, because Home Assistant stores that data, acts as a database. So if you don't have Home Assistant, you basically would install MQTT, let's say on your Linux machine. Then you would need to install Node-RED so that you can assign the little bit of a high-level view of automation you want to do. And you will also need to install or integrate a database with it within which stores all the values you get from your sensors. And then you will need a UI dashboard like Grafana or anything like that, and then you have to integrate it that way. So just look how much process is involved if you don't have Home Assistant or not using Home Assistant. It makes life easy. So here are all the values which are getting from the sensor right here. All are these live, so it depends upon how much delay I put here. I think I put 3 seconds, but if I can reduce it by 1, it will still give me the readings. Even if I remove it, it will still work, but I don't want really these values so fast. So,
I have a question for you, but I'm going to interrupt since we've gotten to the halfway mark and we've got a lot of people in the chat from all over the world. We've got from Canada, Saskatchewan to the Philippines, where it's later than where you are, Saad, as we've noted before. Frank De Hart is here, and of course, he was the very first to comment. Carmine from the USA. We've got Amy Williams saying hello. And of course, one of our previous guests on our other show, Electro Engineering Insights, there's DIY guy Chris, who I believe is from Tunisia, if I recall correctly. And I'm getting cold just looking at this East Norway. Okay, well, I guess it is summer up there. And I want to remind our audience of the giveaway that we mentioned earlier. So that is the URL to go to, and you can win one of these, and you need the code word on the entry page. And the code word for today's giveaway is Home Casa. That's like chai tea, because home and casa mean the same thing, but since Home Assistant is run by Nabu Casa nowadays, that's your code. Anyway, let's put Saad back up on screen. And my question for you, Saad, is all of this stuff is running over your network. Is this all on Wi-Fi, or do you have a combination of Zigbee, Bluetooth, anything like that going on?
No, actually, everything is on Wi-Fi. Nothing is on Bluetooth or Zigbee. I believe the dongle you have, and you're probably going to test, that can enable Zigbee, but I don't think if it's going to be a Zigbee hub or or it will just detect Zigbee devices. I'm not sure about that.
Okay, well, I have to get to that. I've got this Sky Connect, as I showed earlier.
Well,
I had a
that will
problem with
really
Wi-Fi,
unlock
though.
some. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I looked into this because I had a problem with my Wi-Fi network previously. I kept adding more Wi-Fi light bulbs because they're so convenient. You don't need anything. You just screw them in and you set them up and they're on the network. But then eventually I ended up with, I don't know, too many things on the network for that router. And sometimes that light just wouldn't work, wouldn't respond. Never knew what was going on until I got myself the Google Nest hub and system. And now everything seems to be working okay again. But I'm scared to overwhelm the Wi-Fi network. Once you start getting serious about having a lot of devices, you would, of course, recommend using Mosquito MQTT for low information packets.
Exactly, and it also helps. Let's say if you have a battery powered system and you want your let's say ESP32 to wake up, connect to the Wi-Fi, send the MQTT data to your Home Assistant, and then sleep or deep sleep. That will be really saving a lot of battery life. But if you, let's say you have Bluetooth now or Zigbee with the C6 device, I believe you have C6, or I think on C3 you have Zigbee. But anyways, if you have Zigbee hub and then you can do it that way, I think that would be more energy efficient. So there's a lot of possibilities. So over here, yeah, speaking of Home Assistant, you can have all these values saved. So if I go to history, I can see all these values and I can even go back a month. I think I didn't use it that much, but let's say this year it's not showing. But anyways, I can select any other one of them, and as you can see, I can even go back in August, full complete month. Well, let's go July.
Wow.
And I can even download this data, which is the cool part. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to load.
So you can justify your expenditure on toys like this by saving money on electricity.
Yeah. I think it's taking too much time.
That's fine. We
There's
could
a
take
lot
a
of
question
data.
in that time. Got a question from Kay Liu. Can you give me some arguments to compare Home Assistant with Node-RED? What are the advantages of Home Assistant?
Well, Home Assistant is an OS which actually can can have Node-RED installed into it. So if you want to install Node-RED, I already have installed. It's mostly it's a flow-based programming. So you get your data from the MQTT, and now what? So you automate a few things. So turn on that switch or send that command to this device. This is more like if an let's say flow-based programming, or I would say an automation purposes, you would use Node-RED. But Home Assistant is pretty much operating system which integrates everything. You can integrate, you can add a bunch of stuff, MQTT, Zigbee, anything. You can add your lights, bulbs, your garage camera, your locks. Pretty much everything can be integrated with it. Right now, I'm running Pi-hole, which is a local DNS, which blocks all the ads coming on my network, and I can also view it here. With Node-RED, I don't think you can do that. And Node-RED, it does not display your values on your screen. It's not a UI, so you're not be getting all the readings of all your sensors presented like this on Node-RED. So it's basically two very, very different things.
Yeah.
So
good point here from Hank Scholten, who says that when using Home Assistant yellow, Zigbee, Thread, and Matter are part of the device. So I've only got the Home Assistant green, hence my need for this little upgrade here. I never know if the product is big enough to focus. I've got to get my face out. There you go. Nice little USB dongle with the Home Assistant logo on it.
Yes. And another thing about
Your
Home
energy
Assistant
use,
is...
And you're producing solar.
No, I'm actually producing solar, but I'm having a hard time integrating my inverter into the integrations available here. But to do that, there are a bunch of ways, but I'm going to be approaching it a little bit differently. So I'm going to install another ESP32 energy meter on my solar system, and I'm going to be basically monitoring both of that way. But I think pretty much any solar inverter is, I think, compatible. But it depends upon which one you get. So another cool thing about Home Assistant is that you have a complete view of your energy usage. Well, if you have, the more sensors you have, the more Home Assistant gets better. So I can even check, let's say, this month's energy usage. I can calculate how much my bill is going to be. If I had this thing running, I would have been more aware of how much energy my solar system produced, and then how much of an offset I am. So it's really nice. You can also, I think, monitor gas usage if you have the sensor for that, and pretty much anything else. With history now, after a while, oh no, it still takes a while, but anyway, you can download this data. And let's say if you want to train an algorithm, or just to view it on a different graph, you can still do that with downloading CSV file, and it gives you a really nice, I would say, pretty much every value over here I'm getting after every 3 seconds or 4 seconds, the current value.
And what do you think the load delay was? Is that network transfer, or is it JavaScript running on your local machine that's taking a while to put all those data points together?
I am not sure. I think it's too much data, because it's 30 months, 30 days. Yeah. And in those 30 days, there's a new data point coming at every 3 seconds. So that's a lot of values anyway.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a lot of values.
So that's why it takes time. But
400 divided by 3 each day.
Yes. And then
okay, I don't blame your system for being slow.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, it's running on a Raspberry Pi. Let's see how much resource does it take right now.
Come on, Saad, we need to get you a Raspberry Pi 5 for this thing.
Well, still, it takes 1.4, so it's not taking much. or it just gave up. It just gave up when I switched the screen. So yeah.
And Dishum says, hi, I came here from Insta. I don't think you can easily send us comments from Insta, so thanks for hopping over to YouTube for us. If anyone else has any questions, please drop them in the chat. We'd also like to hear if you're running Home Assistant successfully in your setup. Frank DeHart says his inverter has an RS485 interface. Mine also has interfaces of a sort. I don't know if they're RS485 or RS232. There is also an Ethernet jack. I haven't played with that yet myself.
I also have a RS485 interface.
Okay.
It has actually a serial interface, and then you have to attach a specific dongle, which you need to get so that it connects to the internet. Mostly, I think they use SolarMan, but you can. I think there are a lot of other dongles available as well. But before you buy, and if you specifically want to use it with the Home Assistant, then check if they have integration with Home Assistant, which is well updated. And I believe then we won't have any problems integrating, like me.
Great. Carlos Silva, is the webinar being recorded? Yes, it is. In fact, it's streaming live on, for example, YouTube and LinkedIn right now. You can catch it on replay afterwards. And Dishum here is asking, Open Hab versus Home Assistant, which is it possible to integrate commercially in the product, and how do you keep it future-proof? And what future does the Matter protocol have with Smart Home?
I was muted. I think it's pretty much very future proof, because there are so many integrations and they're being updated time to time. Everything's going to be on Wi-Fi, so there's not going to be as much of a communications difference there. It's all about getting your data from your device and showing it on Home Assistant. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a really change in technology. It's pretty much very future proof as long as all the integrations are updated. And I think there's a really big community of Home Assistant, and I believe there's no such thing as problems with it in terms of integration of a new device. Every other day, I think there's new integration integrated with Home Assistant. And even if you have a problem with Home Assistant or any bug you're facing, you can simply go to their GitHub, put your query in or issue, and they will solve that problem for you. And they're really nice that way.
Yeah, I haven't played with Matter much at all myself.
I think it does has Matter integration as well, but you need a hub. I think a Matter enabled hub. So Raspberry Pi does not support Matter, and for that, I think there's another whole conversation. But I didn't got to check it.
And your time there is 3 hours later, so it's nearly 8 p.m. and your temperature is 30 degrees. Has the sun gone down there yet?
The sun is already down since 7.
Wow. And in terms of the RS485, how are you bringing that into your Raspberry Pi or your integration? You have an Insta Shield or a
need a
something?
dongle. You will need a converter. So you will need RS485 to Wi-Fi. I think there are a lot of dongles available that way. Well, you can do it if there's no, let's say, dongle compatible with your hardware. What you can do is get the RS485 data and use these modules which are available right now, is converts RS485 to Wi-Fi by using an ESP32. And then you can use MQTT and show all that data that way. And it just works that way as well. Maybe I can try that if I have a hard time with this integration to integrate with the Home Assistant.
The only problem is with this, you need to be very knowledgeable on the subject. It's not for your average consumer. I mean, you've got to be the IT administrator for your home. If you're not around, I'm not sure how many other people in your household can manage all this.
I don't think anyone would be. The main thing is that I can keep track of everyone's power consumption, and I'm more of like a power police or electricity police, because we do have peak hours here and everything needs to be under control. So that's why a lot of my home members don't like me. Well, most of them don't like me in terms of this way, because I try to be strict this manner. And the only way I can be aware of this is with the energy meter having everything displayed to me at all times when I want it. Other than I have to go out, check the energy meter, and I find what went wrong by the end of the month on an electricity bill. So it's really nice to have real time monitoring sensors to control.
Yeah. Comment from Hank Scholten, who started using it on a Raspberry Pi a few years ago. Now run it on Home Assistant Yellow, adding an 868 megahertz receiver. I'm not sure what protocol that is. Is that Zigbee? I know it's not Bluetooth. Using Tasmota for 230 volt control. Yeah, I run a couple of Sonoffs as well, but I flashed them with Tasmota. So he's got a light that starts every evening randomly between 15 minutes and before and 15 minutes after sunset. I like that feature as well, because sunset changes here throughout the year, for anything from say 5:10 p.m. in winter to around 7:10 p.m. in summer. So I used to have a notification that it's sunset, and then my lights would change from cool white to warm white at night, and play a little tune for sunrise in the morning to get you going on in the day. Dishum says, very powerful discussion. Hashtag Elector, thanks for that. But Frederica, depending on the country, too many updates are published for HA, and it's a problem because we have to do too many updates for the future. How do you proceed with that personally, with too many updates?
Oh, he's correct. Frederick is correct. We do get a lot of updates with Home Assistant, but I don't upgrade until there's a really big issue which I'm facing, or I feel like, okay, there's another complete version skip. So they're on let's say 1.8, and I'm on 1.6 or 7. That's a little bit of a problem in my view. But they update really small things which affect a lot of people, but not me specifically. So you have to read their patch notes if you really want to upgrade. But it's just a click away. If you skip a few updates, I don't think anything would go wrong. I didn't update my Home Assistant since for 2 months. Everything was fine. They do add new features to it, which are really nice. So if you want to access those new features, you can update, but you have support, which is really good. Not having support is a problem. Having too much support is not a problem. You can always not click that update now button, and keep things in your control.
Well, I think in your household, the problem is too much support, and it's all coming from you. So that rests on your shoulders. I'm glad you had the time to do this with us. Hank has found that it runs more reliably on the Home Assistant Yellow than on the Raspberry Pi. Yeah, I can say this Home Assistant Green, I never think about it. It just sits there and does its job. Raspberry Pi, there's a lot of tinkering, but clearly you're not afraid of tinkering, Saad, the number of devices you have running.
Yes, it
We have
is a
about
little bit
5 minutes
stressful.
to go.
Yes, it's a little bit stressful with the when you hop on this bandwagon of control and everything. It's a little bit of in the starting days, it's a little bit overwhelming. But my personal experience with my switches controlled by Home Assistant, I never faced any problem. Let's say before that, when I was using my phone via the Tuya app or smart home app, there was always a delay, first of all. And if the network is down, I cannot turn my lights on and off. And also my water geysers water heaters are controlled with these smart switches, so I don't have to physically go there. Um, so that becomes an issue if network is not running, or there's no internet, or there's no electricity, because you can run heaters on a backup. But anyways, you don't have that. You still have Home Assistant, which can control locally and switch all these things for you. And the other thing, which I think I skipped, is really cool thing about Home Assistant is the automations. So I have two. Let's say I have a switch which is connected to my 3D printer, and my 3D printer has not the capability of turning itself off. So what I do is I first of all I monitor the printing percentage, the process. So when it reaches 100, Home Assistant detects, okay, it's 100 now, so it switch that printer off via that locally, and it just saves a lot of time. I don't have to personally go there. And these are very basic things you can start with. So there's tons of potential with these automations you can do with, you can control. The more sensors you have, the more fun you're going to have with Home Assistant. That's, let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I have found that you typically find a use for them after you have them. You didn't have a use case in mind, but then you have an idea, a light bulb goes on above your head. No pun intended. We have 3 minutes left of our hour, so I'll try and squeeze through the last of the questions and comments. Of course, we've got Baltic Lab joining us. Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it earlier. Baltic Lab is the one guy who doesn't mind if we run late. Christian says, with Home Assistant, can devices be used that would normally need a central hub? Many manufacturers sell a kind of hub, but it costs more than a light bulb or a smart relay socket, etc. Yeah, hence the complexity I spoke about earlier, about so easy to plug a light bulb in and it's connected to the network, but it has its downsides. What do you think, Saad?
Well, I didn't. Well, the most devices I've used didn't require a hub, so now I think I should start checking into this. That does it require a hub, but it does have some integrations with Google Home Assistant, but it's not a hub actually. It's a separate thing, but I have to check.
And then Hank says it would be great if they would tag purely security updates. As usual, don't fix what is not broken. And yeah, I'm starting to feel you, Hank. My cell phone, it's relatively modern, and every couple of days there's new firmware, and I don't really know what it's for. Is it security? Is it important? And then you get a tutorial saying your phone has new features. I don't care. It looks the same to me, pretty much. And
Well,
then
mostly monthly, you
Dishum
have
from
these security patches on phones, which happen on Android. You can, yeah, I would recommend you can do that, but set it at a night time. It automatically updates your phone, and you don't even have to bother during the day. So it's nice to set at night update time.
Yeah, my problem is I could be on my phone at any time, so I always postpone from the notifications. Dishum from India. We have 1 minute to go. Home Assistant, many updates, and he's talking to Frederick, but it's all community supported, same as what's Mycroft. Is that something you're aware of, Saad? I'm not aware of Mycroft. OpenHab, ESP Home, etc. But get used to one platform. There will be no problem. Community and support helps, as Saad was saying. Hashtag give back to.
OpenHab is also another platform, a home automation platform. I didn't use it very extensively. I think I used it last time was 4 years ago, just to show all these data MQTT data readings on a screen. But since I got Home Assistant, I'm never going back. It's really good. The UI is great. Everything is integrated, and it's a really massive community. I think Home Assistant has more big community than OpenHab. I can be wrong, but I feel like the amount of updates, how and the integrations which arrive, I feel like this is the way to go.
Awesome. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I have a couple more questions for you, but they aren't important enough to take up everyone's time. I want to bring up the product that we're giving away. Just to remind everyone, if you haven't already entered, go to the giveaway link, which I'll drop on the screen now, and enter our giveaway. And the code word for this week's show is Homekaza. And thank you, Saad, for joining us once again at this late hour. Dishum also has a thank you for you.
You're welcome.
And at least you'll get some sleep pretty soon. That is, if you don't have to sort out home automation nightmares on Home Assistant. But I think you've given us some inroads. Just before we leave, could you tell me the best, you were mentioning earlier, a more in-depth tutorial that people can visit if they are that way inclined?
Yeah, sure. I can quickly drop that link in the comment box.
Great. There we go. homeassistant.io/installation. And that is it. Once again, thanks to everyone from joining us around the world, from United States to Philippines. That's about the scope of the east to west that I can see from the comments. So it's pretty late in the Philippines and it may be pretty early in, say, Los Angeles. I don't know. But thanks for joining us, and again for your time. This is one of those ones I think might be worth watching again, because I wanted to get more in-depth information on all of this. And as for the rest of you, thanks for joining us from around the world, and please join our giveaway. Subscribe to us on elector.tv on YouTube so that you can be notified of when our next live shows are. We've got some good ones coming up. And thanks again for joining us. Good luck and goodbye.